Great to have you along for the ride. Thanks a lot for stopping by. Glad to have this man back. He's the boss over the Warrior Defense Project. He's the director. That's at St. Mary's College here in, or University here in San Antonio. Go to Google and look up the Warrior Defense Project. You'll see Lieutenant Colonel Jeffrey Addicott. Jeff, how are you? Good to see you again.
Hey, Joe, I'm doing great. Thank you.
So you watched last night, right?
I did watch the debate.
So this seems to be the answer from Biden-Harris walls. We believe Israel has the right to defend itself, and we believe in self-determination for the Palestinians. What? Self-determination for the Palestinians? Look, I might be wrong. I'm the dumb guy here. You can correct me if I'm wrong. But self-determination is no more Israel, right?
Yeah, under the rule of law, and that's what you've got to remember, that, there is no two sides to this story. On October the 6th, there was peace. On October the 7th, Hamas, under the direction of the puppet master Iran, launched a massacre, the largest killing of Jews since World War II.
Wow.
So there's no two sides to this issue. There's one side. The Israelis are in the right under the rule of law, both morally, and they need, people need moral clarity. You need legal clarity. From a law of war perspective, there's no two sides to this issue. The Israelis were attacked. They are responding in self-defense under Article 51 of the UN Charter and under the traditional right of self-defense. And they're also employing anticipatory self-defense. They've been very, very proportionate in how they respond, but they're fighting a forefront war right now. There would be peace if Hamas, Iran, the Houthis, Hezbollah laid down their arms. There'd be peace tomorrow. If the Israelis laid down their arms, they'd all be dead.
And that's the thing. And you keep on getting Harris specifically saying we have to get to a two-state solution. Now, Jeff, does she believe that, or is she saying that because she thinks that'll get her votes?
Hard to tell. She doesn't put out any policy positions, doesn't do any interviews. It's really, I can speculate based on, her voting record. She was the most liberal senator in the United States Senate. And so, that speaks to me volumes, because you can say anything you want right now, but obviously she wants to win. And therefore, as many politicians do, they're going to tell you whatever you want to hear.
Yeah.
So you will vote for them. So I can't, I do not find them to be truthful people.
No, I'm with you. Lieutenant Colonel Jeffrey Addicott got his latest book. It's called Trampling Union Terror. It's a great read, and it's going to be an historical read that you didn't know a lot of these stories. If you're from the North, it might make you mad, but he's telling the truth. At the end of the day, what you have is I believe there was a possibility for a two-state solution when Clinton tried to do it. He wanted that to be his legacy. They offered 97% to Yasser Arafat. He declined. I think there might have been a semblance of a two-state solution under Bush, maybe. There might have been a two-state solution possible before October 7th. There is not one now. There's just not going to be one. If you don't kill the bad guys that, as you said, will not lay down their arms, because Biden keeps saying this dumb thing, ceasefire. Ceasefire doesn't mean victory for Israel, which is that's what we need. If you don't get victory from Israel being victorious over the terrorists that surround them, then Israel doesn't exist anymore. So they keep saying two-state solution. It's just not possible, is it?
No, the Israelis have been negotiating for decades around this two-state solution, and they've offered concession after concession. They've given up large amounts of territory in the hope of peace. But the other side is not serious. As you indicated, when you get 97% of what you want at the bargaining table, you grab it. And that's what they had in under Yasser Arafat in the final waning days of the Clinton administration. They don't want it. They're not serious. And that's true. But, things have changed now, because before, Iran had these buffer terrorist organizations around them that could do their bidding, Hamas, Hezbollah. But, the Iranians, remember, they launched almost 300 drones, missiles, even cruise missiles back in June. And now they've done it again, with ballistic missiles, 180 plus of them. This is one nation state attacking another nation state. That takes it to a whole new level. And, something has to be done. The first time the Israelis Iran attacked Israel in June, the Biden administration said, we don't want you to retaliate. And so Israel retaliated by just knocking out some radar systems around one of the nuclear facilities.
Right.
This time, I understand the Biden administration has not talked to Netanyahu, but I think President Biden did today say, well, they have the right to respond, but it has to be proportionate. In other words, just a little pinprick here and there. Those days are gone. The Israelis have every right to respond with overwhelming force. When you fire 180 ballistic missiles at another nation state, that's an act of war. And the Israelis, it's a target-rich opportunity. I mean, right now.
Yeah.
And they've proven that they are very effective at striking and striking hard. So that's the next thing on the horizon right now. Um, but I'm again, deterrence is the issue from our perspective. Under President Trump, we could send somebody over there in a rowboat with a toy gun. It would deter Iran. Right now, we've got two
That's true.
warships in the Mediterranean, aircraft carriers. We've got, thousands of troops on the ground, 4,500 spread across bases. We got ships everywhere. Iranians aren't deterred by us
Right.
because they know this administration has shown that it will not respond as it should respond to aggressive force.
What was it, Jeff? Was it the one act by Trump that made them stop and shudder in their boots? And the one act was 56, 57 Tomahawk missiles, whatever they were, that were dropped on Syria. I think the entirety of the Middle East went, oh, crap, we probably shouldn't mess with this guy.
Yeah, that and then the mother of all bombs he dropped in
Right.
Afghanistan. So he's made it very clear. And deterrence is you can't fight every bad guy all the time, but you can deter them. In other words, you can keep them in their cage if they think that you will respond to them. And so it's very clear that the totalitarian regimes of this world are not afraid of this administration whatsoever.
Yeah.
They are afraid, and they were afraid 4 years ago of President Trump, and they will be again if the American people vote him back into office, and we will have
Yeah.
peace in the Middle East very quickly.
Thus, their assassination attempts or their call for assassination of Trump. Iran now saying they want Kamala Harris. I don't think I want their endorsement. And also Putin is saying that he is pulling for Kamala Harris. That speaks volumes. It's Lieutenant Colonel Jeffrey Addicott, retired U.S. Army. Also the Warrior Defense Project director. Go get his latest book called Trampling Union Terror. He's got other great books out there as well. Jeff, as we look at the geography of the Middle East, and I think that you probably educated me on this over the years, if you look at it just 50 years ago, 40 years ago, 30 years ago. There are pockets of Christianity. You've got some other religions over here. Now it's all Islam and then Israel. I mean, that was by design, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the surrounding Arab nations in the past have systematically destroyed the concept of freedom of religion. It's either our way or the highway.
So
And
either
they've
run the
driven people
Christians out or kill them, because we know in
Yeah,
Egypt, a lot of Coptic Christians were killed.
Right. Same with the Jews. Same with the Jewish population in all these countries. So the good news, again, rewind the tape. In the Trump administration, he was able to bring 6 Arab nations into an agreement with Israel, the Abraham Accords. That was unprecedented. Saudi Arabia was on the brink of recognizing Israel. And of course, that's why Iran authorized Hamas to launch that attack to keep that from happening. So we were making great progress under the Trump administration. These are just facts. I mean, and so we've made no progress. We've gone backwards in the last 4 years in terms of, seeking some type of a stability arrangement in the Middle East. That's just a fact.
It is. It's Lieutenant Colonel Jeffrey Addicott. So when Biden came out a couple of days ago, and I wonder if Iran acted this quickly or if they already had the attack planned. Some doofus reporter said Israel is going to go into Lebanon and they're going to do this and they're going to do that. They're going to attack Iran. Are you okay with that? And Biden's response was, I'm okay with them stopping. And then he said, ceasefire now. Then he walked away. Does that embolden Iran immediately and they say, let's attack Israel tonight? Or was that attack already planned, do you think?
Well, it's hard to tell because again, we've got a commander in chief that everyone will agree is, has some issues in
Yes.
terms of thinking correctly and straightly, and no one can figure out what he's saying. Many people wonder who is running the show, and so that's we're not operating from a position of strength. Let me just put it that way. We're operating from a position of weakness. But people have, they've assessed this administration, and their assessment is they're not going to do anything. And so that gives a green light to Iran. So, the good news is that, again, we should be celebrating here in this country because
Yes.
now we have an opportunity to use, or at least Israel, our strongest ally, to use the appropriate force to take out the nuclear facilities. That's what needs to happen because the time to stop Iran is before they get nuclear weapons, not afterwards. And so, they invited Israel to the dance by this is the second attack on their soil. The Israelis have every right to go in and to defend themselves by taking out those nuclear facilities. And I think that's what many people, at least offline, if they don't say it officially, that's what they're hoping what will happen in the next couple of days. I wouldn't be surprised if it did happen.
His latest book is called Trampling Union Terror. It's Lieutenant Colonel Jeffrey Addicott. So you brought up the Abraham Accords, which we all, agree. That's great. Let's have peace. Let's have trade. Let's at least try to get along as neighbors. Does that mean that the majority of the Middle East, these countries want some semblance of let's get along? Because we know that Iran doesn't want to get along. They want to kill everybody who's not Muslim, who's not Shia Muslim, to be honest. I don't know why they're getting along with Hamas today. They won't get along with Hamas afterwards. But right now they love each other because it's all the enemy against my enemy. So do most of the countries want some semblance of peace? I'm sure that people do, but do most of the governments want some semblance of peace or not?
Well, many of them have come to see the light because remember, Israel was attacked right after their formation. They were attacked again in the 50s. They were attacked in the 67 war, the 73 war. You had Jordan, you had Egypt, you had Iraq.
And they're undefeated, by the way.
Yeah, and so they realized that, they were militarily defeated very badly.
Yeah.
And so the conclusion is, well, let's just try to, get along. Israel is a postage stamp. They're a fraction of 1% of the land territory.
Right.
And so, there's a lot of disingenuous people when they talk about two-state solutions.
Yes.
There's plenty of land for the Palestinian state in Egypt. There's plenty of land in Jordan that you could carve out lots of territory if they really wanted it. But I think we were seeing movement under the Trump administration, but we've seen no movement in 4 years. Those are just the reality on the ground. So it's still a very dangerous situation. But I don't think if the Israelis attack Iran and take out the nuclear facilities, I don't think a lot of the Arab world is going to come to the aid of the Iranians. It's not going to instigate, in my opinion, a gigantic, massive war because behind the scenes, as you indicated, Joan, you're correct, the Saudis don't like the Iranians. And so many of those nations, they don't like the Iranian regime. They can't say it out loud, but there will be no tears shed when the Ayatollah is cast out of power. Remember the Green Revolution, the Obama administration?
Yes.
It was the Iranian people that stood up and tried to overthrow these totalitarian dictators, and Obama did nothing. He only supported the revolution, quote unquote, when it went to Egypt, which were the radical Islamic extremists that were taking over Egypt. He supported those, but he didn't support the freedom-loving Iranian people trying to overthrow the Ayatollah.
And I could be wrong, but in Egypt, the military had to take over and get rid of the Muslim Brotherhood because they were ruining the joint. They were, as you said, they were radical. So Obama literally did this Arab Spring thing that turned out to be the Middle Eastern meltdown, and you needed people who were clear-minded who lived there to say, no, stop. What are we doing here?
Yeah. So it's, there's anti-Semitism is not unique to the Arab world. We see it here in our own country.
Yeah.
And I'm always puzzled by why. Why are you anti-Semitic? And when you question people, they really don't have a good answer other than they're the occupiers. No, they're not. If you know the rule of law, they're a recognized nation state by the United Nations, officially set into that area. You have a United Nations security resolutions that said they have the right to stable borders. Until that happens, they can do what they got to do. Right now, they've got to go into southern Lebanon and push them across the Litani River because they have 100,000 people can't go back to their homes for the last year in northern Israel because of Hezbollah.
Wow. It's Lieutenant Colonel Jeffrey Addicott. Go and get his book called Trampling Union Terror. Go check out the Warrior Defense Project as well. He does a great job defending people who are veterans, people who are still active military, and he does it because he loves the military, loves this country. Go support what he does there. Let's talk about Ukraine. You got Zelensky walking around all 5'4" of himself, walking around in his fatigues at some munitions plant in Pennsylvania, clearly in a swing state on purpose, clearly pulling for Harris and Walz and not pulling for Trump and Vance, although he does meet with Trump later. What do you think about his tour coming over here and he goes home with $8 billion more? What is that?
Well, again, I think many people, when we see the devastation of the latest hurricane through North Carolina and Georgia, we'd like a couple billions of dollars to go to those people to help them rebuild. But, oh, by the way, FEMA has been, flat on their face doing nothing for these people. And days later, total incompetence. And many people see that. We're starting to wake up, I think, across the fruited plains and wondering why are we putting billions of our dollars to protect their border, and and our border's wide open with 500,000 convicted criminals in this country, and ICE won't give us the stats on how many have come in the last 4 years, because I guarantee you probably 90% of that number is from the last 4 years alone.
Right. I couldn't agree more. And you're right. We're seeing devastation. And Joe Biden dared say the other day, we need Americans to donate, step up and donate. And again, we will. Jeff, we're a very caring, good people. We're very generous people. We're giving $8 billion more to Ukraine. Do you know what the end game is in Ukraine? Victory for Ukraine looks like what?
Donald Trump.
Really? So he'll end it diplomatically, though. He's not going to. Yeah. We're not going to nuke, Russia.
No. We're going to have a diplomatic.
But how do you win this conflict? They keep on saying we're going to win. $260 billion in, Jeff.
Yeah, it's not true. It hasn't been true from the first time that they said it. And the next counteroffensive, as we discussed many times, it's always, they talk about the next counteroffensive, we'll do it, and then it just goes off the news cycle because the Ukrainians are slaughtered and the counteroffensives all fail. You're not going to beat Russia. It's a home game for Russia. It's on their border. Not going to happen. If you're a historian, you know that Crimea voted to secede, and they have the right to secede. And if you deny them the right to secede, then you must deny our own history because we seceded from the British.
Right. Exactly right. Well, what about these regions that Russia wants? They're Russian ethnically. Yeah. They speak Russian there. Were they part of Russia in recent history? How did they become part of Ukraine? And did they vote to secede as well or not?
Well, that's the question. It depends on who you believe.
Well, they're not telling us the real story, Jeff, so I believe you.
Yeah. So, okay, well, look at the facts. Before Putin went in the invasion, which was illegal, but before that, there had been a civil war going on in those eastern regions where Russia is occupied right now for many, many years because they wanted to leave Ukraine and the Ukrainians were killing them. Nobody knows how many thousands were killed, but there was an active civil war going on in those regions.
See, we don't know that. Nobody here knows that. We have never been told that.
No, it's all true. I mean, you can look at it. The Iranians had denied them basic human rights, civil rights. They were ethnic Russians. They wanted to, have some autonomy. Many of them wanted to secede and go to Russia. Ukrainians weren't having it because power always hates to give up power. You're going to have to fight for it.
Yeah.
So, the real story is that there's going to have to be a negotiated settlement of some sort, draw new borders, have open and fair elections with, monitors coming in. Russia agrees that they'll go no further. This thing's got to be settled because half the Ukrainian military is dead and wounded right now. There's nobody left to fight. They're being led to fight.
Lieutenant Colonel Jeffrey Addicott. Jeff, maybe 30 seconds on this. When it comes to us sending money over there, I believe that you told me that twice Zelensky was ready to have some sort of a peace deal, once before Russia went in, and second in, I believe it was Istanbul, where Boris Johnson walked away. So he's ready, isn't he?
Right.
Or is he enjoying the money too much?
Well, it's a three-time now because now he said, I want to negotiate for a victory. That's his new talking point. So he realizes, he knows, despite all the showmanship, that he's about, this is round 9, and he's about out. I mean, the Russians have about depleted his military because we can send all that money over there, but somebody's got to pull the trigger. Unless you're willing to send in soldiers from, NATO or somebody, there's nobody left to drive the trucks, pull the triggers, and get in the tanks and drive them around.
Amazing knowledge as always, Jeff. I appreciate you jumping in the chair today. It's Lieutenant Colonel Jeffrey Addicott. Go and check out the Warrior Defense Project. Get his book called Trampling Union Terror. Let's talk again soon, my friend. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thanks,
All right, brother. We're back after this. Stay right here.